Okay, we've seen some big news, big headlines, and that sparked me to come out and make this quick video. So let's talk about the SuperBike Factory. I've spent the last year making videos arguing something isn't quite right with the UK motorcycle industry, and I was hoping to eventually be proven wrong. But unfortunately, well, this is just another case of where I haven't been. 6 months ago, the SuperBike Factory was opening another showroom, yet this weekend it's filing a notice of intention to appoint administrators. Now, for context, this is one of Europe's biggest used motorcycle dealers, who were most recently in the headlines for their ambitious expansion plans, not fighting for its future just a matter of months later. Now, before anyone starts panicking, let's try and get this straight and understand what is actually happening. Because despite what some of the headlines might be suggesting, SuperBike Factory has not yet gone into administration. What they have done is filed a notice called a Notice of Intention to appoint administrators. Now, this might sound like we're splitting hairs, but it's a really important legal distinction between the two. A notice of intent gives the company a temporary protection from creditors to kind of come in and take over whilst they explore other options. This could mean refinancing, securing new investment, finding a new buyer, and restructuring the business. Now, if none of those work, then they will move to a more formal administration process. So no, they're not currently in administration as of today. Now, if you've watched my channel for any length of time and you've been a subscriber for a while, then you'll know this isn't a story that sits in isolation. I have talked in the past about Paddock Motorcycles closing. I've also talked about how Completely Motorbikes entered administration. And we've talked about the pressures that dealerships are under. And we've talked about the rising cost towards finance deals and how expensive new bikes have got and how the market has become increasingly difficult for both businesses and riders to enjoy. Every time I've raised these concerns, I've hoped that they were just individual cases. But this weekend, yet another major name seems to be on the brink of being added to that ever-growing list. As I pointed out at the start of this video, this isn't a company that looked like it was in retreat. It was quite the opposite. Late last year, SuperBike Factory proudly opened its 6th showroom, taking over the former P&H motorcycle site in Crawley. That wasn't a small takeover, a small expansion. This new site was expected to stock around 400 motorcycles, with customers having access to some 3,500 bikes across all of their 6 sites. Everything about this message suggested that business was continuing to grow. Add to that the fact that back in December 2023, SuperBike Factory was acquired by private equity investment Endless through its ENAC fund. At the time, the business was generating an annual revenue of around £83 million. It established itself as one of, as I say, Europe's largest used retailers. It's a really difficult position to find ourselves in to see how it's ended up in the position it is today. Endless talked about investing in the company, strengthening its leadership team and increasing stock levels and supporting further expansion. And all of that seemed to be coming into play quite nicely. The Crawley site, as I mentioned, was presented as part of that massive expansion strategy. So to go from private equity backing, expanding nationally, and now filing a notice of intention to appoint administrators it's a bit of a dramatic change in direction in such a relatively short period of time. And talking of time, right now, as I'm filming this, we don't know why any of this has happened. There hasn't been a detailed public statement explaining exactly how they've ended up in this position. There hasn't been a statement anywhere on social media from anyone working within the company that's talked about how they've landed on this decision. And I'm not going to sit here and speculate because at the core of all this, there's actually a lot of people whose jobs are now on the line who will be waking up tomorrow morning on Monday unsure if they've even got a job. So right now, nobody outside of that business knows exactly what's happened and what the next steps are going to be. But what we can do is step back and look at the bigger picture about the motorcycle industry here in the UK. Because this isn't just about SuperBike Factory, it's about what the collapse of this business might represent. Dealers closing, manufacturers reducing production, finance becoming more expensive and customers holding on to their used bikes for much longer. You've got higher operating costs and pressures throughout the motorcycle retail sector. And individually, they're just headlines. But together, they start to paint a really bad picture. And that's exactly why I keep coming back to this topic on the channel over and over again. Not because I'm fear-mongering and because I want businesses to fail. It's quite the opposite. I want a healthy motorcycle industry. I want thriving dealerships. And I want more people getting involved and getting out on bikes. But unfortunately, we keep getting sent these warning shots and these warning messages that things just aren't right across the market here in the UK. Now, if you have recently bought a bike from SuperBike Factory, then don't panic. Because as I mentioned, at the moment, the company has only filed a notice for intention. It has not entered full administration. and the business is in a position where it can still secure investment, find buyers, or successfully restructure its assets to keep itself alive. So let's wait and see what the facts actually bring, and let's not jump to conclusions. I'm going to be following this story quite closely in the coming days because whatever happens next will almost certainly have a wider impact on everyone who's interested and sees motorcycles as a hobby. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you bought a bike from SuperBike Factory? Have you had experience of them as a business? What has that experience been like? And do you think this is an isolated issue? Or is this just another warning shot that something much bigger is happening in the UK motorcycle industry? Let me know in the comments. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next video.